Welcome to the Trinity Student Ministry Podcast. My name's Ty Combs.
And I am Andy Ramirezma. We lead student ministry at a Trinity Church in Indianapolis, Indiana.
This is an ongoing conversation for all middle school and high school students about God and culture.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at TC_studentmen for daily updates and information.
What's up, guys? Ty here with my good friend Marcus Depeal.
What's going on?
Marcus, tell us a little bit about your role.
Yes, so I get to be the director of Awaken here at Trinity, which is super fun. Basically, the college young adult pastor in more normal terms. Awaken's our college young adult ministry, and get to oversee the 4 and soon to be 5 different campuses that we have, and it is a blast. I love the college young adult age range, and I do love the youth as well. So I'm kind of excited to dip into this too. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah. So Marcus is a good friend of ours and of Andy's. You work a ton with Andy,
Yes,
as well. So you're able to see his heart for student ministry.
right.
Marcus, tell us about your experience in student ministry personally. Just like
Yeah.
when you were in high school.
Yeah. So I grew up a pastor's kid, and so bounced around to quite a few different youth groups across my time a little bit. But the best experience I had was halfway through high school. I moved from Western Pennsylvania to Battle Creek, Michigan. And when I got there, I didn't have any friends. It was like in the middle of the summer, kind of sad, kind of discouraging across the board. And actually the whole youth group in Battle Creek had just gone to a youth camp, NTS. I don't know if you know, Never the Same camp.
Oh, yeah.
And they were there for about a week. And right when they got back, at the time I was not living for the Lord at all. I thought Christians were lame.
Of course.
I didn't think that any Christians were like athletic. I didn't think any Christians were I didn't think there were cute Christian girls. And so when the whole youth group came back, it was a pretty big youth group. It was about like 120, something like that. And I realized that there were Christians that liked sports, and there were Christians that cute Christian girls. And I was like, I did not know this was real, man. I really didn't. But the biggest thing was I did not know that there were Christians that actually lived like it, to be super honest with you. And so when they all got back from camp, I mean, I have never seen a group of high schoolers, honestly, like more on fire for the Lord than when they got back from camp. And I just remember having a moment, being someone that was running from the Lord and kind of in the party scene at the time and things like that. I remember seeing all of these high schoolers on fire for the Lord, thinking, I just want what they have, man.
Yeah.
I mean, they were talking about the Lord set me free from this, and the Lord brought me out of the party scene, and the Lord set me free from things like pornography. And I was floored. I was like, I have never heard people my age talk like this. And so I was like, I want the freedom that they have. And through, a series of events in that youth group, I just got to experience so much freedom in Jesus because of it. And honestly, high school ministry, it changed my life, like in a very serious way at the age of 16. Resurrendered my life to the Lord. I don't know, did I get saved in that moment? Was I saved before? I'm not sure about all the theology behind it. But what I do know is that, it completely changed the trajectory of my life. So the middle school, high school age range, man, what God does in students' lives is massive. And so I definitely love it and am passionate about it, and know that God can use a dumb, young 16-year-old like myself. And so, I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Man, that's a youth pastor's dream to hear that story. I just gave me goosebumps.
That's right, baby.
Sweet. All right. Well, let's with that, let's just jump in.
Yeah, let's go.
So for those of you who come on Sunday nights, we're going to do some Ketchup. For those of you who maybe have never been to Trinity Student Ministry, maybe you don't even have any idea who I am or who Andy is or Marcus or anybody, we're going to do just a little bit of Ketchup, what we've been doing over the past few months, to give you some context for what we're going to talk about today. So this school year, we started in September. We've been going through the Bible as one big story. I think a ton of us, myself included, when you grow up in the church, you just hear all these little stories, and you think the Bible is just like this anthology of hundreds of stories from thousands of years ago, which in one hand it is kind of true, but really the Bible is one big story, and it's still being written. You know what I mean? God's story is still being written. We're a chapter in that story. So we're talking through that. So we started in Genesis, the first book of the Bible, and we're going all the way through Revelation and just seeing how it all fits together and how really all of humanity is one big story. So we started in Genesis, and we talked about how just God created everything, and it was amazing. We call it the magnificent paradise that God created.
Amen.
Paradise, it was perfect, it was flawless. But then pretty quickly, just a few chapters into this huge book, sin enters the world.
Right.
And we talk about the broken world, how sin entered God's perfect creation, and it just became a broken world. There was sin, there was guilt, there was shame, all the stuff that we feel, it originated somewhere. So we talk about how the magnificent paradise became the broken world. But God didn't give up on his people. He didn't give up on us. Thank goodness. That he sent a chosen people, that he selected a chosen people. So we talk about Abraham, Isaac. Really, 98% of the Old Testament is in this kind of chapter, if you will, of the chosen people. And really the whole Old Testament, all the prophets, all the kings, all the priests, all the judges, just everybody is really God's chosen people trying to figure out how to operate in a broken world while they're waiting their Redeemer, while they're waiting for the one that's going to actually save them. So just a couple weeks ago, we ended that chapter and we entered the New Testament, which the New Testament is when Jesus actually comes into the picture. And Jesus is that promised one, the one that the chosen people were promised. So just a few weeks ago, we introduced Jesus, who is the one who's been promised. He is the one who's going to save this broken world, who's going to fix the sin problem. So now we're looking at Jesus, which is a pretty Christian thing to do. But we're looking at Jesus kind of in the context of what did the chosen people think about him. They'd heard about him for hundreds of years, hundreds, maybe even thousands of years. The prophets had been saying there's one coming. There's one coming from the line of Abraham. There's one coming from the line of David. There's one coming who's going to save everything. And there's all this hype, all this buildup, and then he's here, and now everybody's just like looking at him like, what's going to happen?
And is he the one?
Is he actually the one?
Right.
And is he good enough? So this reminds me of this year. Oh man, the poor NBA. This is a sad reference in some ways.
And I'm very discouraged that is on pause right now.
Dude, I know.
It's good for my soul, but I'm discouraged.
You got all this time in the world, can't even watch sports.
Oh, man. It's good for us.
But it reminds me of Zion this year, of how, like, Zion. I remember hearing about Zion, like, 5-6 years ago?
It was a while, man.
He was dunking on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
And we were like, dude, this guy's insane.
Yeah.
And then he goes and plays in college. And it's like, okay, not only can you make sweet highlight videos, like this dude's got skill.
Yeah, he's legit.
This dude is like got some raw talent. And all through college, he's getting hyped up.
Yeah.
He's the next LeBron. He's the next MJ. There's all this.
Let's slow down.
I'm just saying that's what we heard. That's what we heard. And so there's all this hype, and it gets hyped up. And it reminds me of how people who don't even know anything about the NBA, they know who LeBron is.
Yeah.
They know who Michael Jordan is.
Yeah.
They know who Kobe is. And a lot of them know who Zion is, even before he played in the NBA, because there was so much hype around him. Because whether you watch sports or not, you heard about like, oh, there's the next LeBron is entering the draft. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? There's all this hype. And then what happens? The dude gets hurt.
Man gets hurt.
And then what happens? He plays a few games, and then the world shuts down.
Yes.
So it just reminds me a little bit of that in a weird way of like there's all this hype. Even if they weren't a hardcore Jew, even if they weren't regardless of their background, they knew there was a bunch of hype around Jesus.
Yeah.
Just like if you don't watch the NBA, my wife doesn't watch the NBA. She knows who Zion is.
Yeah.
Like she knows, he's that young guy that entered the draft that's supposed to be amazing.
Right.
So Jesus is kind of in this boat a little bit where he's been hyped up hundreds, thousands of years.
Waiting for the Messiah.
And dude, this guy's been hyped up by God.
Yes.
Like there's no bigger hype. And so now he's here, and now let's see what he does.
Yeah.
So now we get to see some of his actual like interpersonal workings, the things that he says, the way that he acts. So today we're going to be looking at a story that is really like the first time that he really shows some insane power. And he does it in a really personal way. This is an awesome thing about this story. So we're going to be talking about the story of Lazarus. And one thing I think that I forget when I hear about Lazarus is that Lazarus wasn't some random dude. Lazarus was like Jesus' best friend.
They're super close, yeah.
And so Jesus, man, there's all this like talk about him, and he is the Son of God, but he was also in a lot of ways kind of a normal dude. He had friends.
He had friends, yeah.
He hung out. And this is a story about not some guy just walking down the sidewalk that Jesus met one time. This is a truly personal story to the man of Jesus who's been hyped up. So this gives us a deeper window into what the person of Jesus is like. So we're going to jump in. We're going to talk through the story pretty quick. Anything you want to add, Marcus, about just kind of the context of this story?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, just to what you said, as the nation of Israel, God's chosen people, the Jews are just waiting on what they've been calling a Messiah, this chosen one to come and to make everything right and restore, in their minds, restore the nation of Israel to its prominence. And so many of the Jews and the Israelites are kind of under the Roman rule at the time, and so they're expecting whoever the Messiah is to come in some like Superman-like way and overthrow the Roman government and put Israel back on top. And so when Jesus even makes the claim that like, I am this one, or even his disciples are like, you are the Son of God, they have this thought. They're expecting Superman.
Right.
They're expecting Thor,
dude,
man.
Guns blazing.
I mean, they are expecting lightning, thunder. Like, I'm just gonna come in, swoop in, and make this thing sweet and destroy the Romans. So that's the expectation even that they have.
Yep.
And so I think that's good for us to know. That's what everyone else, the Jews, that's what they want.
Oh yeah. Dude, they're getting pumped about it.
They're hyped. They're like, this might be the guy to take us there, and that's not entirely the way that Jesus operates.
Yeah, and the Jewish people have been oppressed for so long.
Yeah.
The Jewish people aren't like top dogs.
Right.
They have been oppressed.
Yep.
They don't have a whole lot to celebrate, especially over the past few hundred years.
Right.
If you look way, way, way back, there was some cool stuff going on for them. But it's like the only way they can be positive is if they live in the good old days.
Yep.
And so they're like so oppressed, and they're just like, man, this is our time.
Yes.
We're going to be on top.
He's bringing us back.
They're like hyped to seek revenge almost on the people that have been making their lives kind of miserable.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. So this is what they're expecting. They're expecting Jesus to come in, guns blazing.
Yeah.
Just wrecking the lives of the people that have been oppressing them.
Right.
And here's what he actually does. The story of Lazarus. So, Jesus, this is about halfway through his ministry. So he's been kind of out preaching. He's been doing some miracles. People kind of like catching word of what he's about. They're like, okay, he was born in a barn.
Yeah.
Weren't expecting that.
Yeah.
He's a carpenter. Weren't expecting that.
Right.
But all right, we'll see. Maybe he can still pull this one out.
Yeah.
So now we get to the story of Lazarus. So Jesus is with, he's not with his friends, but he has these friends that are kind of in not a faraway land, but they're not super close. He's a few days away from them. And he gets word from Mary and Martha, who are some of his best friends.
Yeah. The sisters of Lazarus.
Yep. So Mary, Martha, and Lazarus are this family that Jesus is just so tight with, his best friends. He gets word from Mary and Martha, and the way that they say it is, the one that you love is sick.
Yeah.
So it's not like, hey, there's some guy in our town that's sick. It's like, Lazarus, your best friend.
Yeah.
Is sick, and it's bad.
Exactly.
It's not like, oh, just pray for him that he gets feeling better. It's like, this is not going to go well. And then Jesus says, it says, when he heard this, Jesus says, the sickness will not end in death. No, it's for God's glory, so that God's Son, me, may be glorified through it. And this is, we'll come back to this verse in a little bit, but it says, "Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days. And then he said to his disciples, 'Let's go back to Judea.'" So we're gonna come back to that. But again, Jesus loved Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, so he waited.
Right.
So he waits 2 days, and then he goes back and he tells his disciples, like, "All right, now it's been a couple days. Now it's time to go to Judea, where my friend Lazarus is." And his disciples remind him, like, "Hey, man, you were in Judea a couple weeks ago, and they tried to kill you. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
They threw rocks at your head."
Yep.
This is what the Bible says.
Yeah.
And so they're advising Jesus, like, maybe you don't go. Maybe it's not worth it for Lazarus to die and for you to die.
Right.
Maybe we just call this one
Yep.
a loss, and we save our own necks
Mm-hmm.
in this. But then Jesus convinces them, like, we need to go. This is my friend. We got to go. So they go, and when they're there, Martha runs out to him, and she's just like, "Jesus, what took so long? Why'd you wait? Like, I sent this message like almost a week ago now." By the time he waits and then he travels, it's been 4 days, and it probably took 2 days for the message to get there. So it's been like a week
Right.
since Martha and Mary sent this message. And Martha comes out, and she's like, she's not happy.
Yeah.
She's like, "Jesus, you're our friend. Why did you wait?
Yeah.
Like, if you would have just come on time when I asked you to, you could have saved Lazarus.
Right.
You could have fixed this whole thing. We wouldn't be sad. But now because of you, our supposed friend, my brother's dead. We're all sad, and you were the only one who could have fixed it."
Yeah.
So this story right now looks like just a hopeless, broken situation.
And what I think's cool about that is even the faith of Mary and Martha to, number one, even like send for Jesus when Lazarus
Yeah.
is sick, and the faith that they still have when Jesus shows up. I mean, because when Jesus gets there, it says that Lazarus has been in the tomb for 4 days.
Right.
So this man, I mean, Jesus waited. Lazarus passed away. He's been in the tomb 4 days. But the faith that they have that, like, Lord, if you would have gotten here before he died, like, they have seen Jesus heal people.
Yeah.
They've seen the miracles. They've seen the healings. And so they're like, if you had just been here, we know you could have healed his sickness.
Yes.
But now that he's dead, nothing can be done. It's kind of the attitude. But I think the faith that they even have to like call on Jesus in the moment when Lazarus is sick, and the faith that they have when he shows up of, we know you could have healed a living person, but resurrection's not even in the forefront of their mind.
Yeah, that's not
crazy.
That's never happened.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Like they were faithful. They believed. They weren't saying, "Jesus, maybe there could have been a different outcome, maybe." Like they were like, "Jesus, we know what would have happened."
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this was guaranteed 100%. We've seen you heal sick people. We've seen you heal sick people. We've seen you heal sick people. But Lazarus isn't sick anymore. He's dead.
Yeah.
And I think worth pointing out is that some of the people around some of Jesus' disciples are like, "Well, maybe Lazarus isn't dead yet.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just like fallen asleep," as they say, which probably meant something like he was in like a coma,
Right.
or something like that. And Jesus just comes out and says, like, "No, Lazarus is dead."
Yeah.
Like those words are in the Bible. Lazarus is dead. I think that's worth saying. Just I know there's a lot of speculation about this story amongst non-believers that like, well, maybe Lazarus was just in a coma.
Nah, he was a goner.
Like Jesus, who is omniscient, knows everything, says Lazarus is dead.
Yes.
So we know that. We know that that's true.
Yep.
So Martha and Mary are there. They receive Jesus. Their hope is gone. There's no hope. They were filled with such hope before, and now it's just like been washed out, and it's replaced, I think, a little bit with anger. That's just kind of me reading between the lines. It doesn't say Martha was angry, but I get that vibe from Martha when she runs out there. She's mad. She just lost her brother, and it's hopeless. So now the rest of the story is we'll just kind of fly through the rest of it real quick. So Jesus just says, like, well, first of all, this is worth noting also that Jesus, verse 35, this is in John chapter 11 also. We should have said that at the beginning if you want to follow along. John chapter 11. John 11, verse 35. Some of you might know this as the shortest verse in the Bible. That's what it stood out for me for a long time. But to let you actually know, it's in the story of Lazarus. And it says that Jesus wept. So Jesus knows that Lazarus is dead. He gets there. He sees the sadness and the anger on Martha and Mary, and he joins them in their sorrow. Jesus weeps with them. And then Jesus says, take away the stone. So do you want to tell us what that stone means? And then maybe a little bit about how they reacted when Jesus tells them to take away the stone.
Yep. There's a few things in this story that are super interesting to me, especially like once you study it and you get into like kind of the weeds of all of it. So the first thing is that there was actually a Jewish belief at the time that when somebody died, so when they pass away, they get buried in a tomb often, and there was a belief, not necessarily true, but what they thought is that the spirit of the dead person will actually like linger in the tomb for 3 days. Excuse me, for 3 days, and that on the fourth day, the spirit would actually then pass on to the afterlife. This is what the Jewish people believed. So basically, dead person in the tomb, the spirit of that person hangs out for 3 days. So essentially, if someone were to show up and say, like, we're going to resurrect this person, like their spirit, according to the Jews, would still be in the tomb. So resurrection would make a little bit of sense.
Right.
It'd still be crazy.
It's like the Princess Bride.
The Princess Bride.
He's like, luckily your friend is only half dead.
Exactly.
It's like for 3 days, they always had this belief that luckily your friend is only half dead. So that's up to 3 days.
Yeah.
Now, what day does Jesus get there?
And it says, it literally says that Jesus shows up. In verse 17 of John 11, it says, on his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. So Christ just happens to show up on the day that this would be the most impossible, according to the Jewish beliefs. And I don't know. I just think personally it's interesting that doesn't it feel like Jesus tends to show up when things are the most impossible.
Yep.
So I think that's interesting just to begin with.
Yeah.
And so day 4, like again, days 1, 2, and 3 of Lazarus being in the tomb and dead, everyone's like, maybe there's some degree of hope. Probably not. But maybe there's some degree of hope. Like his spirit is still in there. Something crazy could go down. So Jesus shows up on day number 4, and he asks the question, like, where have you laid him? So they go and show him. And when Jesus gets to the tomb, his first reaction is to weep. He's sad at the death of his best friend.
Yeah.
Also, there's a good chance that he's slightly irritated and angry, just with the lack of faith that people don't yet understand. That, I mean, he's even saying to Martha, like, I am the resurrection, I am the life. And she says to Jesus, like, I know that you're the resurrection. Like, I know there will be a resurrection someday. Yeah. And he's saying your brother will rise again. And what he's trying to say is, like, I'm about to do something right now. And she's like, I know he'll rise again, later on in the last days. And he's like, man, you're missing it. And so even as Jesus weeps, there's this sense that they're not quite getting it. Like, man, I'm trying to do something right now, which I even wonder in our lives. Are there moments where we're like, yeah, Lord, I know that you're good. I know that you did this in the Bible. And the Lord's looking at us like, man, I'm trying to do something in you right now.
Today.
Like, this isn't just for Lazarus thousands of years ago. It's like, I'm trying to do something in your life right now. And so he walks up to the stone. He walks up to the tomb. And he says, take away the stone. And what I think is just fascinating about this, because, I mean, Martha's initial reaction to Jesus saying these words, like, take away the stone, roll it away, her first gut reaction is, but Lord, don't do it. Like, by now there's a bad odor. It would stink. Like, his body's rotting. It's decaying. Like, I don't want to be embarrassed. This is my family. Like, please don't put me through this.
And it's been 4 days.
It's been 4 days.
It's hopeless. It's not worth it.
Part of it's like, I've already grieved the fact that this is dead, I don't want to go through more pain. And I remember as I was studying this one time, the thought it jumped out to me here that Jesus does not walk up to a tomb without a plan to resurrect what's inside of it. So he doesn't ever ask us to
Yeah.
roll away a stone in our life or in the life of Martha here
Mm-hmm.
without a plan to resurrect what's inside of it. I mean, he's not going to walk up to it and say, take
that's
away
so
the
good.
stone just to embarrass Martha in front of the crowds and be
Yeah.
like, see, your brother's dead, you know, LOL. That's not what Jesus, that's not his MO.
Yep,
That's
you're
not what he's
right.
trying
Yeah.
to do. He's saying, take away the stone because I'm about to do something on the other side of it. So when she responds, but Lord,
Mm-hmm.
his response to that is, Martha, did I not tell you that if you believe, you'll see the glory of God?
Mm-hmm.
Like when I say take away the stone in your life, it's because I'm ready to do something amazing
Right.
with what's behind it.
Right.
Even if you're embarrassed of what's behind there.
Yep. It's not a shot in the dark. It's
Yeah.
not just a long shot, a hopeless cause. There's motivation. And
It's a plan.
man, you said something so good to back up just a bit, when Jesus says, after Lazarus is dead, before they roll away the stone, he says, your brother will rise again. And Martha is like, I know he will.
Mm-hmm.
So Martha's been listening.
Yep.
Like she knows that there's hope eventually.
Yep.
She knows that Jesus has been preaching like there's an eternal life coming, an
Yes.
eternal resurrection.
Yep.
So Martha's been paying attention. She's
Yep.
faithful. She says, I know that he will rise again
Right.
in the resurrection at the last day.
Yep.
And then I think this is so good. Jesus says to her, this is verse 25, he says, I am the resurrection and the life.
Mm.
And I think what we hear and what Martha heard is, I will be the resurrection and the life.
Yeah.
So,
Later on.
Yep, I will be. And he says, I am,
Mm.
present tense.
Mm-hmm.
I am the resurrection
Yeah.
and the life. It's not like, man, just hold on for a few thousand more years when I come back and we'll
Right.
fix it all. He's like,
Man, that's good.
he's like, today I am
Yeah.
the resurrection. Oh man, this story's so good. That's so good what you said about if God doesn't pull away a stone without a plan to resurrect what's inside.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So then the story continues. They took away the stone, and Jesus looks up to God the Father, and he just kind of says a prayer for him. And then Jesus literally calls into the tomb, Lazarus, come out.
Yeah.
3 words, Lazarus, come out. And then verse 44, the dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face.
Mm.
This dude has literally been wrapped up, like buried,
Yeah.
dead.
Yep.
The dead man came out. It doesn't say like, then Lazarus finally walked out. It doesn't say then Lazarus woke up from his coma.
Mm.
It says the dead man
The dead man
came out.
was alive. Yes.
Jesus said to them, take off this dude's grave clothes.
Yep.
Like he's alive.
Yeah.
Let him go.
Oh yeah.
He's not known as the dead man anymore. He's alive.
Yeah.
So, man, Jesus is under so much scrutiny here. He's
Mhm.
under the watchful eye of everybody around.
Right.
Is Jesus the one? Is he really the one that we've been hearing about for thousands of years?
Mm-hmm.
And he does this crazy thing where they've been seeing him heal the sick. They think,
Yeah.
okay, this guy's got something,
Yeah.
but I don't know if he's the one.
Right.
I don't know if this is just coincidence, if he's just dealing with like magic or something. And now he goes and it's his best friend, somebody he cares about. He weeps for him, but then he literally raises from the dead. He resurrects what was dead, what was gone. And so now I wonder what it was like to be somebody watching at the time. So the Pharisees, who are these people who think that they're above Jesus. We talked about this a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
If you were there on a Sunday night, we talked about how the Pharisees saw themselves as above Jesus because they knew the Jewish law. They thought they were God's chosen ones.
Yeah, they were the experts in the law. We
Yep.
know everything.
They had the whole Old Testament memorized. They followed it kind of to a T.
Yeah.
So they were looking like down on Jesus. Like, who is this dude?
Yeah.
And then they see him go, not just heal the sick, not just do some nice things for people, not just say nice words.
Mm-hmm.
They see him literally raise a dead man.
Yep.
And I wonder what they were thinking. I wonder if they believed it.
Yeah.
We read a little bit later on in John 11 that they were threatened by it, but this is so interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
In verse 53 it says, so from that day on, the Pharisees plotted to take Jesus' life. And now let's just think about what just happened.
Yeah.
Jesus just raised somebody from the dead. Their solution is to kill Jesus.
Yep.
To turn him into the dead man.
Mm-hmm.
And that shows me that either they weren't thinking clearly or they still didn't believe.
Yeah.
They didn't believe that he could raise the dead because their solution is to kill him.
Yeah. And part of the problem, too, is they realized that, you know, even the ones that did believe and said, we can't even, like, deny it. There's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can say. Like, clearly this guy, I mean, he was in the tomb for 4 days and now he's out. So what do we do about it? Is basically Jesus and the way that he lived and the miracles he did would have totally upset the power structure the Pharisees benefited from.
Right.
And so what you see is many of them like, all right, we can't stop this dude. Like, he's performing signs left and right. We don't know for sure if he's the Messiah, but we do know that a lot of people like him and a lot of people are following him, and they're not following us anymore.
Yep.
And so basically they're like, we got to do something to save our own skin. The Pharisees are so selfishly like looking out for their own ability to stay in power that the answer to them, to all of their problems, is kill him.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just get rid of him. He's frustrating everything we've worked so hard to set up. And so off with his head. Like, literally is what they're thinking. It's insane. It's crazy.
The Pharisees' pride is so big that they're not looking for eternity. Yeah. They're not looking to save humanity. They're looking to save themselves.
Yeah. A guy just got raised from the dead, and instead of celebrating, they're upset about what this could mean for their position of power.
Man, I think that has so much. Dude, we could go on and on about that.
Yeah.
About how hard it is it for us to celebrate the victories of others.
Yes.
When it embarrasses us.
Yeah.
When it embarrasses
or takes the
our
spotlight
doubt,
off of us.
Takes the spotlight. Yeah, that's a good one. Just like, yeah, man, I'm ashamed to say that I feel like I'm a Pharisee a lot.
Absolutely.
In those. So now let's back up a little bit and kind of dive in, unpack just a few of these kind of key points in this story.
Yeah.
The first one is at the very beginning when Jesus first gets the word about Lazarus being sick. Verse 5, now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, so he dropped everything and ran there as fast as he could. Wait, that's not what it says. That's what we wanted to say.
That's what we wanted to say.
It says, no, Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, so when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days. I'm asking the same questions as Martha.
Yep.
Why did Jesus wait? Why didn't he drop everything, run to his best friend, save Lazarus, keep his other friends, Mary and Martha, from this sorrow? Why did he wait? It sounds like he doesn't love them.
Right.
At first. It sounds like, oh, yeah, they were my friends a few years ago. Yeah. Like, we used to be tight. We don't really talk anymore. I'll get there when I get there.
Not top priority.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
But, man, I think Jesus kind of flips the script there a little bit. I think it's instead of him saying, even though Jesus loved them, he waited. Because that's kind of what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Even though Jesus loved them, he waited.
Yeah.
It's actually because he loves them, he waits. When you think about it, because he loves them enough, he's willing to put them through a couple days, a couple rough days, but he's willing to do that to show them a deeper understanding of who he is and who God is.
Yeah.
He's willing for them to suffer so that they might rejoice even more.
Yes.
He loves them enough that he's willing to put them through a couple days of hell. But then on the other end, there is a genuine belief that he can resurrect today.
Yeah. I think it's so cool to play out the scenario of what if he didn't wait, you know?
Yeah.
So if Jesus did not wait, if he didn't wait 2 days,
Mm-hmm.
he would have showed up
Yep.
the second day that
Yep.
Lazarus had been in the tomb. So he would have died anyway.
Right.
It's not like he would have showed up and Lazarus would have been fine. But he would have showed up with the Jewish belief that the
Yep.
spirit of Lazarus is still in the tomb.
He's only half dead.
He's only half dead. And so if resurrection happens there, the disputes, right, of, well, it's not a real resurrection. I mean,
Right.
maybe Lazarus' spirit just, came back into him and made him okay or whatever. I mean, what you said is so good that he's making, yes, the suffering is going to be a little bit longer so that the rejoicing might be even greater, and so that the faith in who this man Jesus is might just be increased through the roof, because they're like, we've seen healings.
Right.
I mean, we've seen miracles, we've seen water turned into wine, whatever it might be. Like, we've seen him do cool things, but we have not yet seen him, like, lord over life and death. Like, we haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
And so if he did not wait the extra time, we would not, and they would not be as sure, is this like the one?
Right.
I mean, what him waiting is actually him proving long term, like, who he actually is. Like, I hold the keys to life and death. Like, I have power to resurrect people, even if you think they're totally dead.
Yeah. So they've seen him time and time again do the improbable.
Yeah.
Turn water into wine.
Yeah.
Walk on water. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But their minds can almost justify, oh, well, maybe the vases already had wine in them.
Maybe it was wine anyway.
Yeah, maybe it was just really, really, really shallow water. Maybe there was a sandbar there and he's just walking on it.
Yeah.
Like, they've seen him do the improbable.
Yeah.
But Jesus goes out of his way this time to show them that he can do the impossible.
Yes.
They can't justify this.
Yeah. There's no explanation.
And so, man, I love that Jesus chooses to wait. He has the wisdom, the foreknowledge that this isn't just going to be another show of the improbable. But he's like, these are my closest friends, and they need to see, but also the entire world needs to see that I'm the Son of God and that God can do the impossible.
Yes.
And now I wonder if I'm in Martha's shoes, if I'm really believing what we say, that Jesus' timing is perfect. That's like a churchy thing to say.
Of course.
I feel like we've said that. I've probably said that in
It's
a sermon.
like on some sort of picture in everyone's bathroom at home.
Yeah.
His timing is perfect.
Yes. And that's something you say when things don't go your way.
Exactly.
That's honestly like
That's
what
so true.
I'm just imagining, like, something goes wrong. Students, maybe you've been in this situation. Maybe something goes wrong and your mom is just like sitting there like, oh, honey, it's okay. Jesus' timing is perfect. And
After you got dumped by your boyfriend or girlfriend.
Right. Exactly.
So who wants to hear that?
And it's like, that's something we say, but I wonder if deep down, if we actually believe, if we're being super honest with ourselves, if we actually believe that our timing is a little bit better. If Martha believes, I mean, we know that she does. When Jesus shows up, she's not saying, Jesus, your timing's perfect. Thanks for waiting.
Yeah.
This will be okay.
Oh, man.
Martha's saying, like, dude, Jesus, you did not show up when I needed you. You did not show up when I needed you.
Right.
And she's upset. And what she's saying is, Jesus, your timing is imperfect. Mine is not. I knew what could have fixed this, and you didn't fit it. You didn't fit the mold I had for you.
That's good.
And man, I wonder how many times in our lives we're in Martha's shoes right there, where if you take a step back, when we're upset with God, when we're disappointed, when we're confused, the things that we say is, Jesus, you didn't show up when I needed you. How many times have you said that to yourself?
Yeah.
You know? Do we actually believe that Jesus' timing is perfect in those moments? I wish I could say that I always do, but I don't. There have been times in my life where I've suffered loss, where I've suffered sadness, sorrow, pain, and I've just been like, Jesus, you could have fixed this. You could have made this better if you would have showed up when I needed you. So do we really believe that Jesus' timing is perfect? or do we kind of secretly believe that ours is still a little bit better?
Right.
I think that's such a good application from this story, is to show that Jesus' timing is better than Martha could have imagined.
Man.
She didn't even comprehend the possibilities. Her timing's perfect if we're dealing with an imperfect God. But we're dealing with a perfect God.
Yeah.
Therefore, his timing is ultimately perfection.
He knows better.
He does. He knows possibilities that we haven't even thought about.
Right.
Oh, man, that's so good. And now kind of the last question that I want to just kind of hang on is, it's one thing to believe this story from the Bible. I think a lot of you students, if you've been raised in the church, you're kind of in the mindset of like, oh, yeah, it's in the Bible. It happened. Like if somebody asked, do you actually believe Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead? I think a lot of us, our canned answer would be like, oh, it's in the Bible. Yeah. I believe the Bible.
Yeah, I read it. Yeah.
That's what Christians do. We believe the Bible.
Yeah.
It's in the Bible, therefore it is true. But and then we also kind of think like, oh yeah, there's a day coming, like who knows when I don't know what it's going to look like, but the Bible tells us like the dead will raise and we will be with God in heaven for eternity. So we kind of believe that Jesus did resurrect. He resurrected Lazarus. He resurrected himself.
Yeah. Like
thousands of years ago. That makes sense. And maybe in a few more thousand years, who knows when it's coming, but in our minds, we kind of think, oh yeah, way off in the future, it'll happen.
Yeah.
But in today's contexts, in 2020, Indiana, that stuff doesn't happen.
Right.
And so we kind of just shut ourselves down to the belief that this could happen. And man, I just hear Jesus saying to us, like, I am the resurrection.
Yeah. Oh man.
He's not saying I was the resurrection and I will be.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that's what we actually subconsciously believe.
Yeah.
I was the resurrection and I will be, but that's not, he doesn't say either of those things. He says, I am the resurrection.
That's so good, man. And that makes me think of, I'm sure you'll get to it, even later on as you work your way through the rest of the Bible, with the student ministry. But the picture that gives me is Revelation, all the angels around the throne saying, holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, the one who was and is and is to come.
There it is.
And dude, that's so true that, even right now, this morning, recording this, my own faith is, I don't doubt that he was.
Right.
And I don't actually doubt that often that he is to come.
Right.
What do I doubt the most? I doubt that he is.
Yes.
It's
Today.
like, yeah, holy, 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 the one who was. Absolutely. I read the Bible and I'm like, gosh, man, the Lord moved in power. I believe these stories with everything in me. And praise God that's true, because the reality is, like, you can doubt that. And that's tough to wrestle through. But for the most part, I don't wrestle with doubt there. For the most part, I don't wrestle with doubt for holy, 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 the one who is to come. It's like, oh, yeah, let's go. Like, I can't wait for he's coming back, double-edged sword, tattoo on the thigh. Like, it's going to be sick. You know what I'm talking about? Like, this is going to be sick.
Woo!
I love it. I get excited. But, dude, I personally am a pastor. You're a pastor.
Yeah, absolutely.
I genuinely do at times struggle to believe, like, is he the one who still is?
Can he actually do that today?
Yeah.
Does he know me today?
Because I look at Lazarus' situation and it's like, well, of course God could do something there.
It's Jesus' best friend.
Honestly, yeah. I look at other Christians and I'm like, of course God could do something there. And I look at my own life, like, even at times, why the heck would God bother with me? He's too busy for that. He doesn't have that kind of time on his hands. Like, why? He is to come. Maybe he even is for other people. But he's not the resurrection for me.
Yeah.
He's not the resurrection for my sin. He's not the resurrection for my past. He's not the Alpha and Omega for my testimony. And the truth is the same thing that Martha's wrestling through right here. Like, Lord, if you would have showed up a year ago, if you would have showed up when I was wrestling through this issue in the past, if you would have showed up before my dad did that thing to me, or if you would have showed up before it all unraveled and got to this point, I know you could have done something then.
Yeah.
But Lord, here's the thing. I'm too far gone now. The situation's dead. The situation's over. I've done too much, or I'm too tainted, or something too bad has been done to me. And dude, you're so right that it's in those moments in our lives that Christ just walks up to us and he's like, did I not tell you? Yes, I was. Yes, I will be. But dude, I am.
Roll away the stone.
Roll away the stupid stone. I'm the resurrection. And I have a plan. I have a plan to do something amazing in your life.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
I think that's so good. I think, man, I have so many thoughts running through my head. But students, whoever's listening to this, just, it's one thing to believe that the Bible is true. That's a good starting place.
Yeah.
Like, we can start there. And honestly, maybe you're not even there.
Yeah.
Man, we'd love to talk to you about that. Whatever. You know all the pastor things that we say there.
Right.
It's one thing to believe the Bible is true, that stuff happened, but it's another thing to be truly convinced that it is reality. It's one thing to believe Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead.
Yeah.
It's in the Bible. Sure. I guess I believe it. But it's a totally different thing to say, I believe that Jesus can resurrect anything today.
Yeah.
It's another thing to believe that Jesus is the resurrection. And so students, I challenge you on one level to just say, if you, and maybe you're not even a Christian, maybe you don't even believe what we're talking about, but I challenge you to really dig into that and not just float through and say, I guess this happened.
Yeah.
But to say, like, I want to be convinced that this story is real.
Yeah.
Is real. Present tense. Not was real.
Yeah.
But this story is real today. And man, that just changes how you view the world.
Yeah.
It changes how you view sin in your life, temptation, addiction.
Absolutely.
It changes how you see pain, how you see loss. Man, I know a lot of our students have gone through some stuff that's really, really real.
Yeah.
It's not just like sad, like, oh, your boyfriend, girlfriend broke up with you after a couple of weeks. Like, that can be sad, but they've gone through, like, there's some real intense pain.
So a lot of teenagers have gone through more than I have.
Oh, same.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
But when you really believe that Jesus is the resurrection and he has that power in your life today, that changes pain.
That's right.
That changes loss. It doesn't make it absent. Jesus wept.
Yeah.
The sadness is real.
Yeah.
We're not doubting that, but it changes how you view it.
Yeah.
So now I just have this question, is how do we tell what we actually believe? How can we actually tell the difference between believing that Lazarus was raised and actually being convinced that Jesus can resurrect my sin?
Yeah.
That Jesus can change this person's life around.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I've got people in my life where I'm like, oh man, I'd love to see them be a Christian, but I don't see it happening. Like, I don't see them turning away from their life.
Yeah.
They're too in love with sin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how do we tell, Marcus, you can speak into this. How do we tell the difference between what we believe? How do we tell if we just believe that Jesus raised Lazarus?
Right.
And the difference between that and how do we tell if we actually believe that Jesus can resurrect today?
Yeah. I think, I don't know. I'll try to answer this as quickly as I can because I feel like there's just so much here. You tell, like, you realize what you actually believe in these moments where the rubber meets the road. And so for Martha, there's this moment where Jesus walks up to the tomb and says, take away the stone. And her response is, but Lord, and gives him a reason why he shouldn't. And he says, did I not tell you, if you believe, you'll see the glory of God? And there's almost this like inferred, I'm asking again, like, take away the stone. And there's a moment where the rubber meets the road of do I just even trust that the Lord's going to do something good? And so there's a moment where Martha has to like give the order, because Jesus can't just force everyone to take away the stone. It's not his family. It's Martha's family. So she has to give the order for people to actually take the stone away.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, I think there are these moments where Jesus walks up to us in our life and says, do you actually believe
Mm-hmm.
that I can do something? Take away the stone. And what that often means for us is, I want you to go confess this to your friend.
Mm-hmm.
Or I want you to go open up to your pastor about this. Or I want you to go talk to your mom or your dad about this issue. There are these moments where the Spirit's prompting us to have the rubber meet the road of, can God do something with this sin issue in my life, with this issue of pornography or drinking or the party scene, or this temptation I feel, or this grief I feel of I lost a loved one or I lost a significant other, whatever the case is. And there's these rubber meets the road moments where the Lord's asking us to actually do something with it, not just to pray about it. That's great, and we should, but to go confess it or go share it with someone. And I think we find out for ourselves how serious we are about our faith and how much we believe that God wants to do something in our lives.
Yeah.
When he says, take away the stone, like, what's our response? Is our response to say, but Lord, I can't because fill in the blank? Or is our response to just say, yes, I'll take away the stone, and I just want you to deal with whatever's inside? I think that is like the litmus test for us.
That's so good.
Of, do we believe? Do we trust? Or not even, maybe we don't trust, but are we willing to be vulnerable with the Lord?
We saw Martha, who had, from what I could tell, all the faith in the world.
Yeah.
When it gets to the point where she has to take action, you're so right. Jesus says, roll away the stone. And she's not like, all right, Lord, I totally trust you. I totally believe that you are the resurrection. We see her say, but wait a minute. Time out, Lord. He's dead.
Yeah.
Like, it's been 4 days.
Yeah.
Jesus, there's no hope.
Right.
That's so good. That test of, are you willing to roll away your stone?
Yeah.
Are you willing to expose literally the dead, smelly, disgusting, rotten pieces of your life? That's what it was for Martha.
Yes.
She was like, my brother, I want everybody's memory of my brother to be the living, alive,
absolutely.
hopeful, joyful. I don't want to taint that. I can't taint that.
Yeah.
And it's like, for you students, like, is there sin in your life and you're like, I can't roll away that stone? I'm a pastor's kid.
Yeah.
I've been raised in the church. Everybody around me knows I'm a Christian. I can't roll away that stone and expose that dirty, rotten, nasty, smelly,
that's good,
dead stuff in my life. I can't show that.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what you're asking. I can't do that. But you're right. The cost of saying, but Lord, is you're going to be stuck there for the rest of your life. You're going to leave that part of your life dirty, rotten, smelly, disgusting. It's not going to change inside that tomb if you're not willing to roll away the stone and let Jesus resurrect it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Man, I feel like we said we were going to keep this one short, but there's so much good stuff.
I know.
We even skipped over some stuff. Dude, Marcus, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Your wisdom is so good. I think it's so good for a lot of us.
I love this stuff for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Students, you guys are awesome. We miss you in this weird corona. What do they call it? Coronacation.
Coronacation. That's what I heard one of them say.
Yeah. we miss you guys. But we love you. We believe that God can work even through these podcasts, even when you're just got your AirPods in your bedroom, whatever you're doing.
Yep.
We believe that God can work through this, that he's speaking to you. So we challenge you to not just, after this, not just hang up your, switch your Spotify to Andy Mineo or whatever. We encourage you to actually take a minute and think about these questions. What are the stones in your life that Jesus is asking you to roll away?
Yeah.
And how can you start that right now? So maybe right now you just need to pull out your phone.
Yeah.
It's probably already in your hand. Let's be real. Maybe you need to just text me, Andy, your small group leader, just another friend, and just be like, man, I feel like there's something I need to talk about.
Yeah, that's good.
I got to get something off my chest. And maybe you take that first step to rolling away the stone in your life for whatever that is. So students, I challenge you right now, don't let this just end and you go on about your life and without being changed. The Word of God wants to change you.
Yeah,
It's alive. It's living.
Amen.
So let it happen. All right. I guess with that, we'll sign out.
We'll sign out.
All right.
Good being with you guys.
Absolutely. Peace.